From Washington, the McLaughlin Group, the American original. For over 3 decades, the sharpest minds, best sources, hardest talk. This is an encore presentation of the 33rd Annual McLaughlin Group Year-End Awards 2014, Part 1. Here's the Master of Ceremonies, John McLaughlin.
Biggest winner of 2014, Pat.
Republican Party, John, they haven't seen glory days like this since the golden era of Harding and Coolidge in numbers.
Mitch McConnell and the GOP are right, but also, sadly, ISIS, very brutal extremist group, very rich extremist group, terrible tactics.
Tom?
Yeah, the government of Iran, because of their expansion of theological power in Iraq and beyond.
What?
It has to be the Republicans who came out of nowhere and won both houses of Parliament, I mean, the government. It's just a huge victory for them.
The envelope, please. Light my fire, will you? Look at that outfit.
Compare the jacket and the trousers. It's a wonderful combination.
That's real ignition over there. Let's see if I can get this out now. You know this routine, Pat?
Yeah, that's Karnak the Magnificent. What is the, he gives,
Karnak
you
the
give
Magnificent?
the answer and he gives you the question.
Who did this?
You've got to get it out.
Johnny
Carson.
Ed McMahon.
Ed McMahon and Johnny.
A greater pair.
You take it out, what do we do? He was blowing it.
Blowing it, right.
Then what? Then give it to
right.
McMahon.
McMahon gives the question and you give the
Here
answer.
you are. Here we go. The biggest winner of 2014 is the United Kingdom. Last September, a referendum on independence for Scotland nearly severed Scotland from the 307-year-old United Kingdom, but the secession was averted. A great victory for UK Prime Minister David Cameron and former PM Gordon Brown, both of whom personally carried out the last-minute campaign appeals to keep the Union intact. The biggest winner of 2014, the UK. Okay, biggest loser, Pat.
Barack Hussein Obama, John, wiped out completely in the Congress, poll ratings below where they've been in a long, long time, and he beats out Sony.
Eleanor.
Bill Cosby, and then on the political side, former Virginia Governor Bob McDonnell, who is heading to the slammer instead of having a spot on the Republican ticket.
You saw Cosby's wife and her defense of him and her repudiation of what she's been
He didn't have a good year.
What? No, Tom.
I'm going to go with Rolling Stone magazine after a complete fall apart at the end of the year.
What?
Well, it seems to me that it was Barack Obama. I mean, he was absolutely obliterated in the election. His poll numbers are down to 41%, which is about as low as it can get. He's lost a lot of traction both within the government and in the country, and there's just no sense of what he stands for in terms of a public program.
That's a good note on your part. The biggest loser, however, is Harry Reid, the Democratic senator from Nevada, who was Senate Majority Leader. Reid was seen as Obama's puppet in the Senate, faithfully obedient to the White House, but at the expense of his own post as Majority Leader. Biggest loser, Harry Reid. Okay, best politician, Pat.
I'm going to give it to Vladimir Putin, John. He playing a very weak hand. He lost the Ukraine, but recovered by grabbing the Crimea. So playing a weak hand, I think he did the best job.
Hello.
Elizabeth Warren, who has her pulse on the energy in the Democratic Party and is really connecting with Middle America and their anger against the banks.
Tom.
I'm going to go with John Boehner. Unpredictable choice there, but the fact that he's kept his caucus in shape and he's won another major victory in the midterms.
Well stated. Mort.
I'm going to go with Narendra Modi, the Indian Prime Minister who defeated the Congress Party for the first time really since India was formed, took over the government in a huge way, became a major, major international player.
Best politician, a joint award to former Undersecretary of Defense Michelle Angelique Flournoy and Senator Jack Reed, Democrat of Rhode Island. They both turned down President Obama's overtures to replace Chuck Hagel as Secretary of Defense. At this stage, a senior appointment in the Obama administration would be toxic to a political resume. Okay, worst politician, Pat.
Eric Cantor, first majority leader thrown out of office by some unknown. He was sitting up having breakfast at Starbucks with his fundraisers in D.C. as he was being voted out of office.
Eleanor.
Okay, Cantor was my pick too, but a good runner-up would be Senator Ted Cruz, who really managed to alienate his Republican colleagues by opening the door for Democrats to confirm 20-odd executive appointments for the president. Cruz is disliked by just about everybody on Capitol Hill.
I don't think cancer's all through. Tom?
Francois Hollande, the president of France, whose approval ratings are floating around 10% now.
What?
Yes, Hollande was my suggestion as well. He's just lost all political traction in France.
Our worst politician, Mark Udall, the ex-Democratic senator from Colorado, who focused so obsessively on the alleged Republican war on women, quote unquote. Udall was a staunch defender of Obamacare throughout the campaign. He was defeated by Republican challenger Cory Gardner. Worst politician. Okay, most defining political moment, Pat.
Executive amnesty by Barack Obama. It's going to affect the politics of the next 2 years entirely in both parties. Poisoned the well for the politics of 2015.
Helena?
Ferguson, Staten Island, I can't breathe. Hands up.
Tom?
I think the downing of MH17 in Ukraine, which showed that the Cold War didn't really ever end.
What?
Yes, I would agree with Eleanor. I think what happened in Ferguson was such a traumatic event for this country, and that to me was the most important event of the
Defining political moment was Vladimir Putin's seizure of Crimea. This single act ended the 20-year post-Cold War period of growing cooperation between East and West. It began a new era of rising confrontation. This is the essence of a defining moment. Okay, turncoat of the year, Pat.
Saudi Arabia throws all its OPEC partners under the bus by refusing to cut back production. Russia's not OPEC, but Venezuela, Nigeria, Iran, all the others are having a very tough time.
Eleanor?
Leon Panetta, former CIA director, with his tell-all book about the inside fights in the Obama administration.
Turncoat.
Yep.
Tom?
Douglas Carswell and Mark Reckless, two British Conservative MPs who transitioned to the UKIP, UK Independence Party, which is going to cause big problems in 2015 for David Cameron.
More turncoat.
Well, to my mind, it was Bill Cosby, because he was an icon for America for so long and such a hugely popular figure, and to find out that everything he stood for was just absolutely destroyed by his life pattern was just too much.
Mort, listen to this. He comes from your district. Turncoat of the year, Democratic Senator Chuck Schumer, who in a National Press Club speech blamed Obamacare for his party's election trouncing. But until November, Schumer had been a staunch cheerleader for the Affordable Care Act, which he helped ram through the Senate in 2010. Chuck Schumer, Turncoat of the year. Okay, most boring, Pat.
This is what we call the Greenspan Trophy, John. It goes this year to Harry Reid, as it has several years previously.
I give it to the two Senate leaders, Harry Reid and Mitch McConnell, and boring can be beautiful. They're having a very productive, they had a very productive lame duck session this year. Congrats to both of them.
Very insightful, Eleanor. Tom?
I think that it's going to be Al Sharpton, just find him repetitive and tedious.
What?
Well, again, I'll go with Harry Reid as the leader of the Democrats in the Senate, who just about put everybody to sleep. It's almost a miracle that he's now going to come out as the majority leader.
Most boring, the so-called GOP war on women. Democratic campaign ads hammered the theme relentlessly in the battleground states this year, to the point where even most women voters tuned them out. Okay, most charismatic, Pat.
I think Pope Francis, John. I think he beats out Matthew McConaughey.
What's that, a private joke?
You don't know who Matthew McConaughey is?
He's the
You better go on,
true
Ellen.
detective.
Put me on your list, Eleanor.
Okay.
Eleanor, go ahead.
I second on Pope Francis, but I also give it to Elizabeth Warren, who really made an impression this year. That's right.
Really?
Yeah. I'm going to go with George W. Bush, who has taken a conciliatory line, has said very positive things about the Clintons, which I think is good for health of the nation as a former president.
Who else has he said good things
Republicans.
about? His brother.
His brother.
Right.
He
Well,
wants
that's
the brother
predictable.
He wants the brother to run.
Yeah.
Mort.
Well, I'm still going to go with Bill Clinton, whom I find in every aspect that he participates in public life still exudes a certain kind of dynamism and magnetic appeal that is unique in American politics.
Something like yourself, Mort, right?
Well, thank you very much. I do it on an alphabetical basis.
The most charismatic, Prince William and Kate Middleton, a.k.a. Catherine, Duchess of Cambridge. They are the most charismatic royals on the planet, breathing new life into the British monarchy. Take note. Okay, BUMMEST rap, Pat.
The big lie that the police force in Ferguson, Missouri, and the town of Ferguson are somehow some racist hellhole because of a single episode that happened in a street.
Eleanor.
A BUMMEST rap that Obama is abusing his executive order and acting like an emperor. That is, except when he's a bystander and passive and not acting like a leader. Both silly.
Tom.
Michelle Obama, who has tried to do a few things on school nutrition, which I don't see as a partisan issue. I think it's good for the health of the nation. I think she gets unfairly criticized for that.
Well, what's the BUMMEST rap against her?
Yeah,
right?
She's been treated unfairly.
Mort.
That the BUMMEST rap is that Hillary Clinton was responsible for the Benghazi, Libya consulate attack.
BUMMEST rap award goes to Senator Dianne Feinstein's charge that the Central Intelligence Agency misled Congress and the White House about its harsh interrogation of al-Qaeda detainees, whereas the president and the congressional leadership were kept fully informed. Okay, FAIREST rap, Pat.
Good for you. FAIREST rap is that ISIS is genuinely an evil organization with those public beheadings of people who were innocent aid workers and journalists and the rest.
Eleanor.
FAIREST rap that climate change is an existential threat and could lead to the extinction of the planet.
Oh no.
Tom.
That President Obama's civilian national security advisors are not fit for duty.
Mort.
That Vladimir Putin, who was the former head of the KGB, turned out in his international dealings and his other dealings to be as tough a son of a gun as there ever was in world politics.
FAIREST rap is the rap against Obama, President Obama, from David Crone, Chief of Staff, to Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid for failing to help the Democrats keep their Senate majority. Crone blames the White House for refusing to put money into Senate campaigns from accounts controlled by the president. A fair rap. Okay, best comeback, Pat.
I'm going to say Chris Christie and Mitt Romney. Both of them are back up and being considered for possible potential presidential runs against George Bush to become the establishment candidate. Both came back.
Eleanor.
The city of Detroit, out of bankruptcy and now a destination for millennial homesteaders.
Interesting. Mort. Tom.
General John Allen, former Marine general who was treated unfairly during an investigation, now cleared and now serving as the manager of the campaign against ISIS.
What?
I go with Governor Christie after this sort of whole issue with Bridgegate and everything like that. I think he's come back very, very well.
I'll give you a real comeback. The best comeback goes to Mitch McConnell. He's gone from fighting for his political life in a Republican primary last spring to being the second most powerful politician in Washington, Barack Obama being the first. A sweet victory for McConnell. Okay, most original thinker, Pat.
Nigel Farage of the UKIP, Tom, who is taking up the cudgels for independence of the European Union, doing a tremendous job, quite frankly, bringing over two Tories, a real threat to the Tory party's hegemony in Great Britain.
A little obscure, but well stated, Pat.
Pope Francis, who said we're going to see our pets in heaven, which is basically
He withdrew it,
was
Eleanor.
basically saying basically saying animals have souls, which we all knew already.
Souls.
Yes,
But they're not
of course.
immortal souls, Eleanor. I'm
Well,
sorry.
I think
What about-
Francis
what
is
about
going to
sharks?
open the door to that.
What
And,
about fish?
I think fish. I'd be
about
happy
animal?
with fish.
Animal?
A lot of space
Rand,
up there in
Rand,
heaven.
Rand Paul, who has made libertarianism mainstream.
Interesting. Mort.
Elon Musk, the man who developed Tesla, and is going to change the whole world of automobiles and automobile transactions and production.
Well stated, Mort. But the most original thinker is Alex Epstein, author of the new book, The Moral Case for Fossil Fuels. Fossil fuels. Epstein puts forward a moral and ethical argument for the good that fossil fuels, oil and gas, do for humanity. The book presents an entirely new take on the climate change debate, which is why Epstein gets the most original thinker award. Okay, most stagnant thinker, Pat.
Bibi Netanyahu. He elevated Hamas with his war. He's broken it off with the EU to a degree, alienated the United States. His government needs new elections. Palestinian talks are dead. He's at a dead end, as I'm afraid Israel is right now politically.
What do you think of that, Mort?
Well, I'm gonna.
My turn.
You're going to comment on it? I know. I wanted him to interject.
Okay, all right.
You know, I was showing you the proper respect.
Okay, all right, good.
All right, please continue.
Just double checking. Okay. Most stagnant thinker is Vladimir Putin, who's stuck in early 20th century adventurism, destroying the economy of his country.
Tom.
Yeah, Nancy Pelosi, who just doesn't seem to realize that the political turns have changed.
Mort.
Afton Burton, the woman who says she married Charles Manson because love conquers all.
Most stagnant thinker, a collective award to the Democratic Party for believing the political tactics it had employed successfully in recent elections would work again. Gallup now says more Americans identify as Republicans than as Democrats. You know that, Pat. Okay,
Certainly.
best photo op, Pat.
It was Barack Obama was on television the end of the first week in Ferguson, Missouri, calling for peace in a split screen with Molotov cocktails and rocks being traded back between police and demonstrators. Unbelievable TV.
Eleanor.
Best photo op, the St. Louis Rams players came out on the field with their hands up.
Tom.
I think the best photo op was from the president, the White House feed on the president's landmark immigration address. The angle made it look like the president had a crown on, which I thought was amusing.
Mort.
President Obama in a floor-length maroon Chinese attire on his visit to China.
The best photo op of the year, the selfie orchestrated by Oscar host Ellen DeGeneres and 11 fellow celebrities during the Oscars broadcast. In fact, it was staged by ABC to use the Samsung smartphone because Samsung paid $20 million to sponsor the Academy Awards. You didn't know that, did you, Pat?
No, I didn't know they did it. I saw that whole scene, though.
Okay, enough already with that. What do you have to say, Pat?
The Enough Already Award goes to the Reverend Al Sharpton.
Enough already, Benghazi.
Woof.
Russell Brand, a British comedian who now thinks he's a political revolutionary but doesn't have the reading knowledge to do it.
I'm with Pat on Al Sharpton. We've had enough of him over a long enough period of time, and I think he's doing a lot of damage to whatever coherence this country can develop in terms of race relations.
Mm-hmm. And you're from New York.
Yeah.
Enough already with the jargon. The selfie, call it a picture, a self-portrait, or a headshot, or, as often happens, a misframed and poorly proportional digital document. May the selfie go the way of the Twinkie and the hoodie and march quietly into oblivion. Enough already with the selfie. Okay, worst lie, Pat.
That Officer Darren Wilson in Ferguson shot down an innocent, unarmed teenager in cold blood in the streets of Ferguson. The whole grand jury testimony indicated this was nothing but a large lie.
Eleanor.
Worst lie, Republican campaign pledges repeated over and over and votes taken to repeal Obamacare. Not happening.
President Putin's assertion that Russian intelligence is not operating in eastern Ukraine and the links of those intelligence services to the downing of MH17.
Worst lie is IRS Commissioner John Koskinen's assertions.
Try Mort. He might have some thoughts.
Mort, I beg your pardon.
No, it's perfect.
Shall I finish or you go?
No, you go ahead with
No,
a name.
I think you should go.
With a name like Zuckerman, I'm used to coming at the end. You go ahead.
All right, I will. The worst lie is IRS Commissioner John Koskinen's assertion in congressional testimony that tens of thousands of Lois Lerner's emails were lost and are permanently unrecoverable. Well, this month the IRS Inspector General recovered 30,000 of the supposedly lost Lerner emails. Worst lie. Okay, capitalist, no, we won't go to that. Martin.
The combining and merging of cable companies will lower rates both for customers and subscribers.
That's a lie.
That's a lie.
Wow. Okay, capitalist of the year.
Xi Jinping of China. He's not only getting rid of corruption, China's become the largest economy in the world according to one standard conducted by the World Bank. Amazing for China.
Eleanor.
Alibaba, the Chinese e-commerce company.
Tell us about it.
Well, they're
First
taking.
of-
They're
it's
taking
huge,
over.
isn't it?
It's huge. That's its most defining character, and it's taking over a lot of space on the internet.
And it's over here. Well,
And it's all right. It's in our economy.
Can you approve
Businessmen
on
are
Alibaba?
united against it.
Alibaba, can you improve on that?
Can I improve on that? I'm going to go with Uber and Lyft, car sharing services that are changing the way that we use cars and allowing individuals to earn a bit of extra money on the side.
And which you incidentally use, as I understand it. You use Uber.
I use an array.
And all right, that's a competitor to Uber.
Yes.
Mort, what do you think of that?
Let me just tell you what my particular thing is. It is the developers of fracking of oil that has changed the entire energy situation for this country to in such a dramatic way and in such a short period of time, and it's going to make us completely independent of the oil and energy of the rest of the world.
Well stated. 2014's Capitalist of the Year is Jonathan Gruber, the MIT professor and economist and former Obama administration consultant. He gloated over what he called the stupidity of American voters. Gruber collected some $5 million in fees from government proselytizing for Obamacare. Gruber designed the law in an incomprehensible manner, then charged unbelievably hefty fees to explain it. Honorable mention, Pat.
Marine Le Pen of the Front National, the National Front in France, John, and the reason I say that is because she did extraordinarily well in these European parliamentary elections. She's not running first for president of France, but she's part of this movement. Nigel Lafarge is in, all these other populist right-wing movements, some of which are leaning toward Putin. It is one of the most dramatic movements, and it's growing all across Europe. And a lot of people think it's unhealthy. There are some far-right groups associated with it. But it seems to me, ultimately, this is going to lead to the breakup of the Eurozone and maybe even the breakup of the European Union.
Eleanor.
I nominate the people who are on the front lines fighting Ebola. Doctors Without Borders, the doctors and nurses who went over there who put their own lives at risk in order to help, the U.S. troops who went over to build facilities. There's a lot of self-interest and national security involved on the U.S. part, because if you don't stop it in West Africa, you're going to have to deal with it here. But I really commend people who go into that environment and know their lives are at risk and feel that their duty is to help their fellow man.
Well stated, Eleanor. Tom.
I'm going with Ashraf Ghani and Abdullah, the leaders of Afghanistan, who have decided to come together and try and pursue some form of political reconciliation in the country. They're promising still low-level changes in development and governance. The Afghan National Army is holding ground, and there's a credibility there that is important to build a relationship with the United States. And if we compare it with Hamid Karzai, it's an improvement, and it's important. We've lost a lot of Americans in Afghanistan. It gives us the hope that we might be able to salvage something there.
Mark.
Well, I would go with the Canadian government, led by a couple of very mature, serious leaders who have done a marvelous job, both in terms of integrating the country between the French-speaking and the English-speaking country, and to develop and continue to develop a modern economy in the context of being right next door to the United States.
Are they soliciting counsel from you?
Only on Sundays.
Are you looking for
on Sundays?
After they see the McLaughlin Group, they call me.
Mort is Canadian by birth, we should point out.
Are you looking for some kind of medal from these folks up there in Canada where you were born?
They are really doing a terrific job.
I agree with you. I know the foreign minister.
I think, going back to what you were saying, Pat, I mean, there is a concern. I mean, Le Pen, there are some really unpleasant sentiments in part of Le Pen's movement. She's trying to move that a little bit away, but it still flirts with it. But you're right in the sense that I think it does portend the collapse of the European Union project.
Honorable mention goes to Ukrainian President Petro Poroshenko, the former chocolate magnate, become Ukraine's 5th president in the midst of its most severe crisis since independence from the Soviet Union 23 years ago. Poroshenko is simultaneously battling a crumbling economy and Moscow-backed Russian separatists. He's a true patriot, and Ukraine's freedom is in his hands. I think you would concur with me on that, wouldn't you, Mark?
Yes, yes. I think he has
done
a terrific job.
What is a former chocolate magnate? Did he head up a Hershey's plant?
That's the big. He's Hershey's in Ukraine.
He's Hershey's in.
But
okay.
you know,
Eleanor, I think the question is, how does he raise $3 billion selling chocolate?
Oh, I think selling chocolate is a pretty good deal.
There is an issue?
There is an issue in Ukraine. The patronage politics and sort of organized crime, a lot of money floating around is still a big issue in Western.
And the United States ought to get in there, I think, and try to end this war. People talk about putting in weapons to Ukraine. They can't defeat Russia. You'll have a larger war, more Ukrainians dead, Russians dead, a disaster. I think we really ought to get in there politically and diplomatically and try to end it and end the killing. And
chocolates for peace?
Well, I mean, Poroshenko is a strong man.
Right. Do you think Poroshenko is able to control Putin?
No, he's not. I mean, but I think Putin wants a deal. I think I believe we ought to stop the war.
Putin
I don't see
he wants a deal on his terms, though.
I don't think he wants to own the 2 provinces in the Luhansk and Donetsk.
Putin wants the stands.
Putin is
Turkmenistan.
crashing and burning.
Putin has got he's got enough problems on his plate.
That's
he
right.
wants Kazakhstan, go in and invade that.
I think the problem's-
Tajikistan. There's another stand he wants.
There's, Kyrgyzstan, there's
just naming
Turkmenistan, there's
stands?
Uzbekistan.
Right.
He wants them all?
Well, that's the way it looks. That's the way it looks. He wants controlling.
I
Moldova,
do not believe
Estonia.
that. I don't believe
He
it.
wants the Russia of the past to
He
become
wants
the
the
Russia of
Russians
today.
back in Russia.
Right.
Also, he has support in the stands.
Listen, look, I think, Putin, he's a man we can do business with, I believe.
But if we do business with him holding all the cards, he does not want to make
doesn't
any
have all
tough
the
concessions.
cards. He doesn't have all the
But
cards
the problem
anymore.
is, with his political strategy, I think he becomes more dangerous because of his weakening position with those oil
That's what
revenues.
I'm afraid of.
I came close to naming him the biggest loser of the year.
Okay, here it is, Person of the Year, Pat.
I think Pope Francis, John, he's not only a worldwide sensation, but there could be a real split coming in the Roman Catholic Church, which was, before Islam took over, the largest religion on earth.
Hello.
California Governor Jerry Brown, who was governor in the 1970s for 2 terms, just won election handily to his 4th term. He's now in his 70s. He has handled the budget issues in California with great deftness and managed to preserve investments in education and social policies. So he's beloved on the left and the right.
The unnamed clandestine service officer of the CIA, treated disgustingly by the United States Congress, but serving very honorably and courageously around the world under the surface of public awareness.
Vladimir Putin, who has emerged as an enormously effective and powerful and tough-minded player on the world scene, and at this point has made us look very, very weak.
Person of the Year, Pope Francis, especially now that he's told us that animals can go to heaven. And Oliver is up there waiting for me. Next week, join us for the McLaughlin Group 2014 Year-End Awards Part 2. Merry Christmas. Bye-bye.